Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the darkest timeline, so it's just me for the day. There'll be games, there'll be movies, there'll be TV, and probably something from the last week. So here we go. This is Cookiecast, the darkest timeline podcast. Oh, right then, here we go. Holy shitballs. Tired was a long time ago at this point. Oh, choking. Yeah, so, I'm always like, really tired. I'm drinking an energy drink to get through. I'm drinking a small one, I'm drinking a big one. So far today, I had 2 cups of coffee this morning inside of an hour. Within an hour of that, I had a large coffee. How then? Was it within an hour of that I'd had a large energy drink? And then about an hour ago, I had another large energy drink. I have got some juice right now because I'm thinking at this point, well, there isn't enough caffeine in the world now, so I think we're just going to have to go with the get through the rest of today and go to bed. Oh, what a week. So this is the point where I tell you all the stuff that doesn't matter. I don't mean the whole podcast, I just mean the stuff that, where I go, I normally record this on this day, but instead we're recording it on this day. I normally record this podcast, 1 second. I don't know why that program does that. I normally record this podcast on a Monday. You probably know this, and you probably know that doesn't make any difference to when you get it. These podcasts are quite largely out of date. As I keep saying, I'm probably going to do something about that, but I'm very scared that I'll do something about it and then for some reason can't do one and it gets out of date the other way. Normally do this podcast on a Monday. This Monday, however, I was out, which we'll come to. Tuesday was doing football and NFL podcast. Wednesday, coding. Today is Thursday. It feels, because of the fact that it is now nearly, it kind of feels like it's a week has passed. I looked at the list of stuff I had to talk about, and although it is still just a week's worth, it's this huge list. It was a busy week. But now I'm like, by the time I get to Monday next week, it'll be like, hi, here's the podcast, it's 5 minutes, I'll see you next week. Who knows? Anyway, so this list is massive. It covers an entire screen on my phone. You see, there's stuff on here that's not, because it's happened nearly 2 weeks ago, it's not fresh in my mind, but it's still on the list. So that's stuff that I might be able to fly through. There is other stuff, more current, more relevant, so on and so forth. Let's get started. So, I had this thing recently where I was like, oh man, I'm really trying not to bitch on the podcast because I sound like a whiny little bitch. But back in the dark depths of when I started doing this podcast, it was kind of about bitching and moaning and getting that out so that I didn't have to sort of deal with it as much. This podcast was kind of like a therapy session. But then I coded a lot of podcasts, had to listen to myself bitching about stuff, and I was like, oh my god, it sounds awful. So I made the decision to move away from that. In the last week, I've been like a bit like, well, this was supposed to be the outlay for my bitching. I was supposed to get the bitching out. So, there is something that has happened to me twice in the last week, and I'm going to bitch about it. And If you don't like that, then that's up to you. But I'm giving you fair warning. There is a bitch session coming. Something that I have a pet hate. It's another one of my pet hates. Something that I think is massively unprofessional as a business or a company or a service or anything like that. It should be something that is stomped out, because it is a massively rude thing. So, 2 separate occasions I've been into shops in the last week. It was still in the last week. And the person who has been serving me has been talking while serving me. Now, initially you're like, so fucking what? But bear with me. Let me get through this. So, went into a shop. I'm not going to use any names. That's not important. It was just a shop. Long row of tills. They're all like, the person stands, then there's like a gap to put your shop in, and then there's the next till. So they're quite close together. Big long queue, lots of queuing. My turn to move to the next available person. As I get there, the person who is supposedly about to serve me is talking to the person next to them. They are talking back. They are already serving someone. Immediately, I'm like, well, we've started this one off on the wrong foot. Because as somebody who is there, who's being paid to do a job, your job at this point in time is to essentially welcome me to not so much the shop, but the buying process. So I was like, ooh, bad start. So, you know, there was a few, not a shed load of items. I think there was, I want to say 4, but I feel that there was more for sort of, it was maybe like 5 items. Not a huge amount. So loaded the items onto the little bit where you put your shopping, tiny little space where you put your shopping, and the person went back to talking, and I'm like, oh, that's 2 strikes. So yeah, admittedly, at this point in time, they didn't essentially have anything to do. Or another way of looking at it is, half of the shopping was already in the little space. They could have started scanning that through. So then the scanning process commenced. Not a huge, long-winded process, because let's face it, there was 5 items. Oh, right, you're talking again. So essentially what you're saying to me is that you don't care that I, as a customer, am standing there being served by you, which at this point in time, I don't feel I am. I don't feel that you are serving me. I feel you are having a chat with your mate, and you just so happen to be at work. So, comes to the point of like paying for the items, and another conversation breaks out. And by this part, I'm like, this is, as an employer, that is unacceptable. I've worked in a variety of different businesses. I've worked in a variety of different situations. I tried to put myself in that position. I've worked in shops. I've worked with people that I've got on with really well. And I've worked with them where you've got nothing to do because there's no one to serve. You have a conversation. I've got no issues with that. I don't think you should be stood there like a robot waiting to serve people. Have a chat, have a conversation. The moment a customer arrives at the place you are supposed to serve them, enters the store, all of that, your conversation is done. I don't care if you're in the middle of a word, in the middle of a sentence, or what. Your conversation is over. Or it is put on pause until 15, 20 minutes down the line when you come back in contact with that person you work with and you are not serving someone. It is rude. And it gives a bad impression of the business, in my opinion. So, few days later, I go to another shop. Now, this is a shop that has... I don't want to give too much away. Let's go with tills. These tills are back to back. So, there may be a conveyor belt. There may be a till with somebody sat at it, and then a packing area. That may give some sort of hint at what sort of shop I'm talking about, but it doesn't tell you which company I'm referring to, so there. So, you've got a till next to another till, but they are back to back. The person, because let's face it, we know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the fact that this person was talking. The person would either have to do one of two things. Talk facing me whilst actually talking to the person who sat behind them, or would have to turn round to talk to the person sat behind them while supposedly serving me. Already at this point in time, I imagine you've guessed which one we're talking about. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The person who was quote-unquote serving me spent the entire transaction turning round to talk to the person behind them. Could they have been any less interested in serving me, the customer? I already know that I sound like a complete and utter bitch at this point, but as somebody who has worked in different trades, different businesses, and some of those businesses are retail, admittedly, quite a while ago now, I cannot think of much that is ruder to a customer than not serving them in the short amount of time that they are in that business, in that room, in that store, whatever. It is incredibly rude. And let's face it, if you work for a big company, you are the face of that company. So I potentially might have a bad opinion of particular companies now for allowing that to be a situation. What is it Tom Quinn always says? It's a place of employment, not enjoyment. Too freaking right. So there, that is my bitch. I got my bitch out. There are a few other bits. But I feel that is the bitchiest of all the bitch. So, here's something that is super cool. Super cool. I was proper, like almost crying with laughter when I saw this. So, now then, how long ago will it have been? Last week, well, I'm going to go with that. I saw that there was a trailer for the new Star Wars TV series, The Mandalorian. Oh God, how do I go through this? So, I used to be a big Star Wars fan. Like everybody, like every single person on the face of the earth, I was a Star Wars fan. Back when Star Wars was good, which, let's face it, was a long time ago now. Star Wars, you know, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, great. Everybody loved it. In the 80s, I had the toys, and then years later played the games. I still have on display in my house a full-size replica of Darth Vader's lightsaber. It's on a stand. I think it's cool. So that's the sort of level I'm at. I'm not a super Star Wars geek, but I'm a Star Wars fan of the good stuff, which is fleeting these days. I don't sit and wait for the trailer for the new movie to come out. I don't rush out to see the new movies at the cinema because I work on the principle they're going to be shit. And so far, I haven't been wrong. I mean, people will try and tell me that. Now then, this is the thing. I can't remember the names of them. There was The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens. Rogue One was okay, but if you ask me what happened in it now, I couldn't tell you a single thing. Solo, the first 20 minutes was awful. The rest, where they basically ripped off the Firefly episode where they do the train robbery, that was good. I wonder why. I know there's been like TV series. Here's an example. The game that I'm really looking forward to at this point in time is the new Star Wars game. Super looking forward to it. Really excited. It looks great. Everything I've heard sounds amazing. It'll be awful. That's how it works. So, I saw there was a trailer for this new TV series, The Mandalorians. And I was like, it's Star Wars, so I don't massively care. But I've got a few minutes to kill. So I'll have a little look. Put it on, started watching it. There was like a tiny cog somewhere in the back of my mind that started spinning, going, there's something about it, there's something about it, there's something about it. Didn't really think too much about it, but like a tiny little cog somewhere in the back of my mind started spinning. So I'm watching it and I'm watching it and I'm watching it, and then like the odd person pops up and it's like, all right, there, isn't it cool? And it looks fine. It looks very Star Wars. Excuse me. It looks Star Wars without the Jedis, I guess, which, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's what people want now. Star Wars without the Jedis, without the Sith. Yeah? Cool. I knew the trailer was getting to the back end. I was like, okay, I'm not going to rush out and subscribe to Disney Plus so that I can watch this program. That's kind of that for me. And then somebody popped up in the trailer, and I was like, what? And at the point that I saw this person pop up in the trailer, the tiny little cog that had been spinning in the back of my mind caught, and I was like, holy shit. I remember a story about this. Completely lost my mind. Had to run through. I was saying to Lan, I was like, oh my God, you got to look at this trailer and tell me if you recognise anyone. She didn't. She thought that it was like 10 other people before she actually worked out who it was. So, in the trailer is Bill Burr. Or, as we like to call him in our house, Uncle Billy. I said to the baby, should we listen to some Uncle Billy? Obviously, she says yes. She loves it. And we put Bill Burr's podcast on. So, I'm like, holy shit. And he looked freaking badass in the trailer. He's shooting guns. He's got like a shoulder cannon, like Predator. He looked awesome. It was badass. So I'm like, I remember the story about this. Saw a thing where he was doing an interview where somebody had asked him something, and he'd said that he knows Jon Favreau. They were having a conversation. Jon Favreau's like, I want to put you in something. I've got these projects coming up, working for Disney, doing Star Wars stuff. Bill Burr's like, that's a good one. You do know that I'm synonymous through the podcast for having, it's not a hatred for Star Wars, but he takes the piss massively. Jon Favreau's like, yeah, I know. That's why I think it will be funny to put you in something that is Star Wars, because when people who know you see that, they'll lose their mind and it'll be hilarious. So, there's me sitting there watching this trailer going, oh my God, I can't believe it. It was cool. I've gone back and watched the trailer a few times. The trailer really doesn't do anything for me other than I go, it looks alright. But the fact that Bill Burr's in it and the way he's in it, it's just brilliant. And I was like, that is definitely worth a mention. So I made a note of it and I wrote it down. Right, so I've got two things here. If I'm honest, there was a point where I thought I might have to cut this podcast down, and if I'm honest, these were the two things that I thought about cutting out of it. The first one being is that this was a conversation that I was having in a WhatsApp group, and I was like, do people care? But I had a conversation in a WhatsApp group about companies selling data. And it wasn't about that. It was about companies collecting data. And it was a very divided sort of conversation where I was like, but that's bad. Why is it bad? Well, they collect your data, of which they can collect loads. We're talking about like mobile phones. They can collect your data, of which there is a lot. Your phone knows a lot about you. It knows your name, your date of birth, where you live. If you're talking about things like iPhones, the way that they're unlocked is they essentially take a picture, and that picture is corresponding to your location. They have your browsing history, your emails, your text messages, your Facebook, your Twitter, all the social media, everything. These things are tracking devices. They collect data and they know where you are at all times. Mine will now tell me where my car is. Surprisingly, not when I need to know. Like the one point in time I was like, where's the car? My phone's like, what car's that then? I'm like, the car I parked 5 hours ago. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. It's like, cool, I've lost a car. Wonderful. So I'm like, your phone collects all of this data, and then they sell the data to absolutely everyone. I was like, if you've ever gone onto one of these websites that wants you to opt in, opt out for all your data stuff, and it's one of the ones that makes it incredibly difficult for you to opt out by saying, oh, well, if you're going to opt out, we're going to not give you a button to not opt out of all. You're going to do it manually. If you try and do it manually, you'll be there from now until Christmas 2023. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of companies that your data gets sold to. Look into it. Go to one of these things, go to one of these privacy things, and look at it. Look at what they do with that data. So I think my biggest issue with it is I don't want people making money off me. Data selling and data mining is big business. And then there's the legal stuff and there's the illegal stuff. You know, people that sell credit card numbers. So it's big business, and I don't want somebody making money off me. I'm not a number. I'm not a stat. I'm not a collection of data. I am me. I don't want you making money off me. So the conversation went along the lines of, oh, I'm fine with it. Like, why would you be okay with a company selling absolutely everything about you to other companies? Well, I've got nothing to hide. It's like, it's not about that. It's not about hiding stuff. It's not like, I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, you know, they're going to take all of your secrets. And it's not about that. It's about companies making money off you. Oh no, I prefer it. I'm like, what is this? I prefer it because it allows the company that owns my phone to better serve my needs. I lost my mind at that point. I was like, what is this conversation? So somebody told me the other day that they were happy for their phone to collect all of this data because it meant that in future they would get better phones. At that point in time, I was like, this conversation is over. Because I was like, I can't have a conversation with you if you believe that that is the smallest part. Or the biggest part is, oh, I can get a better phone if they collect all this data. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? So yeah, selling data is bad, people. Look it up. Back into the phone where I keep my all my notes about my podcast. Just delete the selling data bit. So games normally comes a little bit later in the in the podcast, and this isn't. I'm not talking about a game I played. I'm talking about a game company. So Bethesda personal favourite of mine. Such a fantastic company of people. They're so good. They're so great. They're good at what they do. They release great games. Bethesda have had a load of shit recently because they released a subscription service to a broken game. I think it's like Fallout 76 or Fallout First or something, or is that what the subscription service is called? So they released Fallout 76, which is apparently, don't know, I haven't played it because of all the fact that because of the reviews and the fact that apparently it was just so broken. Bethesda like to do this thing. They like to release a game that is hella broken and go, oh, you fix it, to the public, which the public generally do. And then Bethesda get all of the updates and all the fixes that the community have done and then just release it as an update to fix the game. Well done, Bethesda. My common thing I say to people is, name the last good game Bethesda released. I said that to someone the other day and they tried to tell me that Rage 2 was a good game. I was like, where would you like me to start on that statement? So Bethesda released a subscription service to a broken game. Congratulations to them. And then didn't secure the domain name for their latest game. So somebody else bought it. So as a massive games company, whose job was it to go out and secure the domain names for the games? Because you'd think that somebody would have had the job and somebody would have done it. So apparently a disgruntled gamer has bought the website and has then started posting anti-Fallout stuff all over this website. Sounded hilarious until I heard that apparently the site's been taken down, which I'd love to know how that's been done. But yeah, for a company like Bethesda, who a long time ago used to release really good games, they haven't released a really good one. Everybody would say Doom 2016, and I'd be inclined to agree, but they haven't released anything of any merit for a long time. Yeah, I mean, for a company who is struggling badly, they're not helping themselves in any way, shape or form. I would happily see them go out of business. I don't think the games world is going to hugely miss them, especially in a situation where somebody will probably buy the Doom property and do it just as well. I don't think it's Bethesda that are making that game what it is. Obviously, it's them that make it, but, you know. Anyway, moving on. So, had a super busy week. That super busy week involved trips out. And I'm going to tell you about it. So, Saturday. Went to Manchester because I was going to see some stand-up. Went with Magic Mike. Me and Mike left in the afternoon because I wanted us to get there with plenty of time. I hate driving into Manchester when it's busy. So we went in the afternoon, which was good because it was torrential rain, as it is every single time I drive to Manchester. But I'm used to that now, so hey. The drive was awful, torrential rain. Drove there, went to Tim Hortons. Oh man, that place, so good. Oh, had hands down the single best cup of coffee I've ever had in my life. Had a maple latte. Holy shitballs, it was amazing. Bought some donuts to bring home for the peoples. that was, you know, expensive. Not because it's expensive, because we got a lot. Hung around in Tim Hortons, had a sit-down coffee, had a donut, cool times. Drove over to Salford, which turned out was actually where this gig was. Had a wander around, went into a shopping centre, had a wander around there. Went over to the venue, which was the Lowry in Salford, which is in Media City, which I didn't overly realise until we sort of actually got there. It's like, oh, there's ITV, there's BBC. So sort of had a wander around there, and that was pretty cool. Went to this place, went in. Oh, you can't use your mobile phone whilst the performance is on. Fine, I have no intention of using my mobile phone while the performance is on, unless I was inclined to take a picture. So we went in, found our seats. By the time we got to our seats, we sort of had a bit of a feeling that there was something a little bit amiss. Reason being is that the stage and the microphone was miles away. I said to Mike, I was like, I feel like when I went to see the NFL at Wembley and I was in the second to last row. The Lowry is in a lot of ways a really nice building, and it's got a really interesting sort of, basically like individual doors for individual sections. So we had to go to like door G, so, as I'm sure you know how the alphabet works, you know, and it was up all these flights of stairs, and it's like, oh, you know, it's an interesting concept to get you to like your section, but then looking down from where we were, again, we were like second to last row in this building, and just couldn't work out why they've laid it out like that. There was like, you know, like the ground floor, then you'd go up a level, but you'd go up a level like 30 feet, and then there's more seats, and then you go up another level, another 30 feet, set back, more seats, and so on and so forth, until you get to like where we were, which was like G, second from the back row. The microphone stand was, if we held your finger and your thumb up, it was 2 inches tall. So if you think about how tall a microphone stand is, you know, it's nearly as tall as a performer. Think how big that person was going to be. We watched the oh man, I can't think of the guy's name. There was a support act. No, can't think. I want to say Josh, maybe. Part of me wants to look it up, part of me is like, it doesn't matter. And then there was like an interval. The whole time they're playing this recording about how you can't use your phone. And it was like supposed to be like comical, but it was just pissing people off. Obviously, to watch people being told that there was going to be like an hour where they couldn't use their phones, people were losing their minds. And just getting that last little bit of phone, gotta get that last little bit of phone before they take it away from me. And they were saying, if you're seen using your phone, you're going to get thrown out. So there was a little interval, and then, did I even say who I'd gone to see? We went to see Tom Segura. So Tom Segura came out. So the venue's already a bit of a, me and Mike had a conversation like whilst the support act was on, like when you try and focus on the person, like so you can get like a nice clear view, kind of made you go a bit dizzy because of how far away they were and the way it was all sort of laid out and stuff. So yeah, watch Tom Segura. So when I went to see Bill Burr last time, it was a proper like rolling around in the aisles kind of funny. When I went to see Bill Burr the time before, it was the same. Laughed a lot. When I saw the stand-up special from not the last time but the time before, I didn't think it was as good as I remember it being live. And if asked now, I would say that's possibly his weakest stand-up, which potentially means that the live effect, seeing it live, had a different effect and made it seem funnier than it maybe was. Still good, just not his best. Whereas seeing Bill Burr last time, proper like tears kind of funny. Seeing his stand-up special, I've reviewed it already and said it is potentially his best stand-up he's ever done. It's fantastic. So, but that's the last stand-up I went to see. Saw Tom Segura. Been a big fan for a long time. Podcasts. His stand-ups are exceptional. Thoroughly enjoy his stuff. His interaction with Bert Kreischer and the fact that, you know, him and like Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer, Ari Shaffir, all them do this over October. Fantastic. The thing that struck me was, I was trying to relay this information when I was sort of saying how it was like the next day, and I was saying there was kind of like 3 or 4 different laughs. So there was like, joke is told and you go, huh, cool. Then there was like the, that sort of laugh. Then there was like the, nice. And then, I won't do it because, you know, but then it's like the proper laugh. But what struck me quite early on and quite a lot was that there wasn't as many of the rolling around laughing as there was, or And I described it as there was some bits that were very good. But it felt like a comedian who was working shit out. It didn't feel, you know, it certainly wouldn't be special ready. If that was his stand-up special, I would say that it would be heavily cut down. There felt like a lot of filler, a lot of stuff that didn't really work, didn't really land. It was a really bizarre experience. It really was. It felt like... It just felt like he was just trying stuff to see what would land. It feels like what I hear comedians talk about, like when they're putting their hour together. That's the quote unquote thing. They're putting their hour together. And they talk about, you know, you go out one night, you try some stuff and it works, so you keep it. Then you try it again and it doesn't work, and you have to work out why, and you try other stuff and that really works, and then other stuff doesn't. That's what it felt like. It felt like he was just trying stuff to see what would stick. It wasn't a bad experience by any stretch. It just felt a little bit off. Also the fact that although people have been told that they couldn't use their phones, it's the same as always. I always say the same thing when I go to live events. People just up and down all over the shop all the time through the entire show. I remember back in the, you know, when I was a kid and growing up and stuff, it was like when you're going somewhere like that, you went to the toilet before you went in, you sat down, you shut up, you watched what you'd gone to see, and then you left. And if you really need to, you went to the toilet afterwards. People up and down everywhere. There's points where I couldn't see because people were all up and down. Somebody gets up in the middle of a row and 19 other people have to get up to let them out. It's like, did you need to go? Did you need to go to the toilet because you've had to sit for 30 minutes? A concept that truly baffles me. Anyway, I feel at this point in time I should point out that I am quite tired. I feel ratty. I feel that is coming across quite a lot. Me and Matt left. We went back. We paid for the parking, which was absolutely astonishing. People say parking in York is expensive. They've not parked at that particular car park in Manchester, apparently. Yeah, it was expensive. So we drove back to Tim Hortons to get a road coffee. So we did that, and then we drove back, and we had a chat on the way back, and I dropped back off, and I got home, and it was late, and I played VR games. So that was Saturday. Sunday was Sunday, brings us to Monday. Monday was a normal day. However, I was going out in the evening. That's why the podcast didn't have. But I had parent-teacher night to go to, which was interesting. And then I had to drive to the school. Reason being is that I had to go to parent-teacher evening, and the earliest appointment I could get was 5. I had to be in Manchester for 7. It's an hour and a half drive anyway, and that would be if you weren't trying to do it at rush hour, which I was. So I drove to the school, went to see the teacher, jumped back in the car, and set off to Manchester. If I thought the rain was bad on Saturday, the torrential downpour Monday night was that bad. It was one of those where the windscreen wipers couldn't keep up. It was torrential. The motorway was an absolute shit show because of it. It was off the charts bad weather-wise. But hey, I was driving to Manchester. What did I expect? Got over there. Turned out when I looked on a map, turned out that the place I was going on Monday night was like a bit further down from where I'd gone on Saturday night. I was like, wow. So I was like, sod it, freeze, I'm going to park in the same place. That's that. As it was, I found a different place to park. Was like, this place will definitely be cheaper. It was not. And at that point, I didn't really care, so I just paid it and moved on. Walked quite a way. I'm surprised there wasn't any parking nearer, but hey. Past Old Trafford, and got in the queue to go to see Machine Head. Now then, saw Machine Head not long ago, did a review of the Machine Head gig, but they were back. Reason being, 25th anniversary of the first Machine Head album, Burn My Eyes. They were doing 2 shows, essentially. They were doing a normal gig, where they play all the songs, and then they were doing Burn My Eyes in its entirety. I believed it was the other way around. It wasn't. Something that was interesting was that nearly the entire version of Machine Head that did Burn My Eyes were reforming to do the performance for Burn My Eyes. So basically, what they were doing was, for the show, it was Machine Head now, and then for Burn My Eyes, it was all of Machine Head who did that album, minus the bass player, who was just the normal bass player. Never been to this venue before. It was the O2 Victoria Warehouse. Got there, massive queue. I'd seen something earlier in the day that was like, oh, don't forget, if you've got O2 priority, you can get in by using the O2 queue. I'm on the phone talking about it, and then this guy was like, has anybody got O2? I was like, yeah, me, mate. He's like, oh, go to the front then. I was like, sweet. Walked down, joined a very short queue, showed them my O2 thing, and got in like 10 minutes later, which was cool. A plus and a minus here. The venue, big open space, like it was a warehouse. Sound-wise, exceptional. The sound was meaty as hell, super bassy. I really like the bassy stuff, and just meaty as hell. Which made up for 2 downsides. One, it was all on the same level. So I stood quite far back and couldn't see anything. Literally. Because you've got people of varying sizes, the short version is it should slope towards the front ever so slightly, so that if you stood towards the back you can still see. It didn't. It was one level, so I could barely see. And I'm not short. I'm reasonably tall, but yeah, it was like, oh, that's interesting. Also, Machine Head use a stage setup that has a lot of bright lights, a lot of white bright lights. So it's like, oh, I'll take a picture. Cool, that's some lights. Oh, I'll try and see what's going on. Oh, now I'm blind. Couple of negatives there. So they did a full show. They came on at 8. They'd been very clear. Don't be late. There's no support. They were essentially their own support. Don't be late. Turn up. We're going on at 8. So I got in about 7:30, I think. Found a reasonably good space. Like a corner near a wall and stuff. Cool. Some people milling around and stuff. And yeah, I'm part of me thinks them. Well, I wouldn't say they came on early, but I'm pretty sure they were like 8 o'clock on the nose. They were on stage. They did 2 hours. That's right. They did 2 hours. Show. They did a 2-hour show. They didn't. They did an hour and 50 minutes and said that they were going to go off for 10 minutes. So an hour and 50 minutes. So that was like cool. They did the sort of stuff you'd expect. They have a massive back catalogue at this point in time. It's one of those, they can do one song off each album and fill that time. Everything you'd expect, anybody who's a Machine Head fan. All the good ones, all the classics. They went off for 10 minutes, they came back on. They did Burn My Eyes. So Burn My Eyes has got 11 tracks on it. Its runtime is 56 minutes. One of those tracks is just like a load of sounds and like recordings and stuff, which they actually played before they started. It's like, yeah, fair enough. It's like the second to last track. So they did that. Then they played 9 more tracks. Then, before playing the last track, they did like this medley of Iron Maiden, Metallica, Slayer. But that went on for like 20 minutes. And then they played the last track. Then they did the sort of thanking everybody, taking a big picture and throwing stuff out into the crowd. And then they went. 3.5 hours of Machine Head. If you're a Machine Head fan, like I am, that sounds great. If you are not a Machine Head fan, that might sound like a lot. American bands have this thing that British audiences can't do long gigs. I heard this thing years ago that there was like American bands would play for like 3.5 hours in America without batting an eyelid, and then they'd come to the UK and do an hour and a half. I think Machine Head are more of a, if you want to hear it, we'll play it sort of band. So 3.5 hours to them is just like a normal show. They're already selling tickets for next year. So, Burn My Eyes is a fantastic album. I loved hearing it sort of being done again live. It kind of ages me a bit because I remember it being released and listening to it originally. The gig in itself was just monumental. It was a huge thing. Great to see. If I'm honest, I was in a bit of a funk when I got there. I was already at the start of being tired. That was like I say, that was Monday and it's Thursday now. I'd had like, yeah, like before setting off, I'd had some sort of just like I say, I had things to do before leaving and those things didn't go so well. So then I had to sort of get in the car and drive for an hour and a half, which was more like 2 hours. And those 2 hours were in torrential rain on the M62 in rush hour. So imagine what that's like. Then I get there, I don't really know where I'm going, and I had to walk for like 25 minutes. Then I get there. All of this is, I'm on my own as well, which in itself is quite a thing. It's a bit sad, isn't it? I had to go on my own. That is what it is. I go to gigs on my own now. So yeah, at the start of it, I'm like, I'm not really in the mood for this. And I got into it as it went along, but 3.5 hours later, I'm like, cool. Now I've got to walk back to the car and then drive home. Sweet. So yeah, it was a bit... There's no reflection on the gig. The gig was fantastic. It was just a bit of a day. Did treat myself by going to Tim Hortons on the way. I didn't go on the way there because I didn't have the time, but I did go on the way back. It was 24 hours. Got a coffee for the road to keep myself awake. I also got a cold drink, an ice cap. It's like a chocolate lushy smoothie thing, but it had coffee in. Super nice. The lady did get my coffee order wrong, so I ended up drinking I think it was mint. Still nice. Jumped in the car, drove back, and it was just... I love driving back from Manchester at 11, 12 o'clock at night because it's just smooth sailing. Stick the cruise control on, set it at 70, and away you go. And you've got 30 miles of 70 miles an hour, and then next thing you're turning off to come back home. And it's still 70 until you hit literally the turning off to come to the house. So, that was that. Again, I didn't get home until... It was 2 in the morning or something, and I can never go straight to bed after driving at night. So I just sort of chilled out and went sort of 2:30. But in this day and age, getting old, can't do the late nights the way I used to. So next thing, it's Tuesday. It's back to normal, doing the days, and I've just been getting more and more tired as the week's gone on. But yeah, that was my trips out, my day trips out, my night trips out, etc., etc. Okay, let's talk some fun stuff. Trying to think what... Oh no, man, I've written that in the wrong place. That's why. I'm I was going to talk about a TV programme that I'm currently watching. So I'm why would I talk about something I'm currently watching? Why wouldn't I be talking about something that I've watched? I've written it in the wrong place, that's why. So, I think last time we talked about BoJack Horseman. I'm trying not to look stuff up on the podcast. I'm going to say that the current series is Series 8. If I'm wrong, it's Series 6. And if I'm wrong, then I've no fucking idea what series it is. I'm going to say Series 8. Let's go with that for now, until somebody tells me I'm wrong. So, BoJack Horseman was one of those. It was back in the infancy of Netflix doing their own stuff. There was this program that appeared. BoJack Horseman, animated thing. I saw some trailers because Netflix showed trailers. And it looked odd. It's like animals, humans, animals. I didn't get it. Didn't bother with it. By the time it got a 3rd series, I was like, what is the deal with this program? Why does it keep getting more series? Somebody must be watching it for it to get more episodes and stuff. I'm like, maybe it's time to check it out. Which I did. And I enjoyed it. And I watched the series that were available, and then every time a new one comes out, I watch it. And I think I said last time, it's a really enjoyable program, but it is hands down the darkest thing I've ever seen. And it it's one of those that you think, like, I look at it now and I'm like, how have they managed to get away with it? I mean, obviously it's animated, but it's so dark. This latest series suffered the main character goes to rehab. BoJack Horseman goes to rehab. That's what the series was about. I kind of would have hoped that they would have learned from programs like House. There was a series where House went to rehab. And another program, I was talking about it the other day. There's another program where the main character's taken out of the program, and it's like all the other characters are supporting characters. They're not the main character. You know, the program's called BoJack Horseman. The program was called House. You know, when you take the main character out, the supporting characters aren't enough to keep the program afloat. Obviously, BoJack was still in it, but he had his story. He was in rehab and everything that goes with that. It felt very much like they'd maybe not... The progression for BoJack's character to go to rehab, I fully agree with and support, but not from a entertainment perspective. From a character perspective, yes. They did an episode and I was like, oh God, we've come to this. The episode where there are people in the house, but the person who actually owns the house don't know they're there, and they've got to like run between the rooms whilst the person's not looking. They did that episode. It was like, oh, what's next? A musical episode? You really have run out of ideas. Right up until I watched the last episode, and then it flashed up on screen saying the final episodes for BoJack Horseman will be aired in January. So they've clearly seen this themselves and they've gone, it's time to end this, so let's end it. Which I was like, oh wow, that's a shock. But I kind of like when things like that happen. You know, you have programs that just flog the dead horse in the hope that it's going to come back to life. Irony being the whole BoJack is a horse. But they've obviously chosen to end it, which in a lot of ways is a good thing. It feels like a program that I'll probably go back and watch from the beginning again when it finishes. Like I say, I think it's Series 8, not the strongest of the series, but still enjoyable to watch. I'd certainly recommend it if you haven't seen it. I'd certainly recommend it as a program to watch. It's good. It's really good, but it's super dark. So, I finished that and I started watching another Netflix original, Daybreak. I'm not going to review it because I haven't finished it. I'm so many episodes in. I don't know how many episodes there are. Part of me was feeling like I kind of hoped it would be like one of these ones that's like 6 episodes or, you know, 9 episodes, 10 episodes, something. Feels like I've probably watched more than that already, so it's not going to be one. It's probably going to be a... I don't know how many they do these days, 20-something episodes. That's not a bad thing. It's just you're kind of locked in, and they're 45-minute episodes, so I'm going to be watching this for a while. Again, not a bad thing. It's one of these. It's based on a comic book, graphic novel. It's super meta. There's a lot of fourth wall breaks. There's a lot of it takes the piss out of itself and things like it. It really sort of addresses the way that TV and movies and things are made. Matthew Broderick's in it. I can say he's the only... He's not the only person I recognise. I recognise another guy who I think was in The League. I think he was like a bully in The League. He was literally in an episode. Matthew Broderick's been very good in it. He's another one of those that he disappeared from the public eye. Pretty sure I know the reason why that was. Find it interesting that he's sort of resurfaced. But he's very good in it. It's enjoyable. It's really good to watch. I'm really enjoying it. There's a lot of... It's very modern. They've got these very modern characters. So it's cool. It's good. I'm enjoying it. I'm not going to review it because, like I say, I'm only part way through it. But I will review it when I'm done with it. I watched 2 films. I watched Men in Black 3. Now, by no means a new movie, and by no means a film that I have only just seen. I've seen it many, many times. But I did watch Men in Black 3. I really enjoy Men in Black 3. It's one of those that I like the Men in Black series, but if you said to me, let's watch a film, let's watch a Men in Black film, I'm going to tell you to watch Men in Black 3. I'm going to say, let's watch Men in Black 3. I used to love the first one, but I've seen the first one a gajillion times. And the second one, I remember being okay, but not as good as the first, and not as good as the third. I like the third because it's a bit more current, and it's got other people in. Josh Brolin's in it, which always makes a movie slightly better. There's just various other people in it. It's very enjoyable. There's that guy, famous for Flight of the Conchords, but I know him better from his musical stuff. He's the crab in Moana, and he's Fart in Rick and Morty. It's just a super enjoyable film. I saw something at the end, and then I made a massive mistake. I saw something at the end, and the writer of the film flashed up, and I thought that it said Ethan Coen. And I am sure that I have told 2, 3, 4 people in the last week, did you know that Ethan Coen wrote Men in Black 3? I didn't know that. I can't believe it. It's practically a Coen Brothers movie. Something didn't feel right about that. And a few days later, I looked it up, and it turned out not Ethan Coen. Etan Coen. E-T-A-N Coen. You can see the mistake. Weirdly, looked him up on IMDb, and his trivia is not related to the Coen Brothers. That's the only piece of trivia. It's like, shit. Then I had to go around all the people that I was like, it was Ethan Coen, and say, hey, I looked it up and it wasn't Ethan Coen. But there's one person, and I don't know who it is, that I told that Men in Black 3 was written by Ethan Coen, and they still don't know that that's not true. And I feel like that information is out in the world now, and I've sent out poor information. So if you are the person that I told, and you're listening to this, it's not Ethan Coen, and you now need to go find anybody you told and correct them. Watch Men in Black 3. I did watch a new movie. I think I mentioned that I was going to watch this film, and I did. I watched Dolomite, which I believe the full title is Dolomite Is My Name. I've never seen the Dolomite film, but it is available on Amazon Prime, and I thought I should probably watch it. Again, a Netflix original, but this has got Eddie Murphy returning to acting, Wesley Snipes returning to acting. Oh God, what's his name? Is it Keenan Peele? That is probably not his name at all. Right, so it's that's it. It's Dolomite Is My Name is what it's called. Keegan Michael Kay. So it's got Eddie Murphy, Keegan Michael Kay, Mike Epps, Craig Robinson. Anybody else? Freaking Snoop Dogg's in it. Must be good. Anybody else that stands out before I put this down? Wesley Snipes. Chris Rock's in it very briefly. Yeah, nobody else is jumping out there. So yeah, an enjoyable film. I don't really know the story until I'd watched it. Eddie Murphy plays a guy that I think he just wanted to be famous. So he's had like various different careers. He works in a record shop. He wants to put out a comedy album. He talks to like all these homeless guys and gets all these like, not quite one-liners, but these sort of, I don't know what you'd call them, just like, I can't really describe it. Supposedly jokes. I didn't find a single one of them funny. But it must have been like the 70s or something. And he just says these things and people laughed. So he records an album, which gets released, does very well, keeps going like that. Next thing, he's going to make a movie. They're going to make a movie, Dolomite movie. This is the character that he plays, this Dolomite. So they're going to make a movie. And basically, it's just a terrible movie made with a small budget and a unexperienced film crew. And then they struggle to get it released, and they can't get it released, and then they manage to release it like to individual cinemas, and then it gets bought. And so I kind of feel like I might have ruined it there. A lot more happens than that. It was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I always like a come good story, one where somebody's struggling and then they come good at the end. It was enjoyable. I'd thoroughly recommend it. I enjoyed it a lot. So that's the movies that I've been watching. So let's talk some computer games. VR. Got a new VR game. I'm hoping to get a new VR game today because there's one that's been released brand new, which is called Pistol Whip, which is like Beat Saber but with guns. So cool. But I did get a game, not a new one, but new to me. Drop Dead Dual Strike Edition. That's right, lots of words. Zombie shooting game with time travel elements. You do these levels. I think it said that there was like 40 levels in the game, which is a lot. Admittedly, the levels are quite short. Something I will say is, me and zombies have a bit of a mixed history. I kind of don't really like zombies in some ways. Love watching a zombie movie. Love zombies in that sort of thing. But like actual kind of dealing with zombies, I'm a bit. I have this fear that I'm going to be the guy that gets bitten, like opening a door, sort of. I'm going to be the guy that dies in a really lame way. I think that gives me a weird fear of zombies. So playing a VR experience, it's not an experience, it's a VR game, with zombies, there have been a couple of points in time where I've sort of like been, shooting a zombie over to the right, turn to the left, and there's like a zombie right in my face, and it's like, whoa, proper, like, there's been a few scares. It's loads of fun. I've got so far, and it's really hard, and I've just got up to a mission where it's got a thing where you can fail at the end of the mission, and I keep failing at the end of the mission. And then, like I say, it's got this time travel element, so you can just travel back through time and start again. But that means you have to do the whole mission again. And, like I say, it's quite hard. So It's a bit of a struggle to sort of keep going back when you're just replaying the same thing over and over again. Something that is quite amusing, but just one of those things. Like the characters who are with you, like the characters sort of turn up at various points in the game. You can actually shoot them and they die. It's just something that is funny to me. It's a nice little touch that they've put in the game. Obviously, you have to start the mission again, but every now and then, and just for shits and giggles, I shoot one of the characters and then I have to start it again. It's lots of fun. I'm still playing Gun Club VR. That's a lot of fun. It's had a massive update recently. Like, it was updated around Halloween, so there was loads of pumpkins. But it also had this huge gun update. So I bought loads of new guns because I had loads of money to spend. And like just some super cool guns. It's got the Vector submachine gun. And this super cool handgun that looks like the gun from an anime that I can't think of the name of. So yeah, still plugging away at that. That's a lot of fun. Like I say, I'm hoping to get Pistol Whip today, so I'll give that a whirl, let you know how that is, if I do, in fact, get it. Actual computer games, no surprises to anybody. Up until last night, I was still playing Breakpoint. I say that because I believe I have, quote-unquote, finished Breakpoint. Breakpoint is set up in a certain way where you can't really finish it. It's a game that's designed to bring you back on a daily basis, so it just keeps generating missions. The collectible side of Breakpoint I haven't finished because, if I'm honest, it's boring the living shit out of me. I have finished the story and all of the actual physical side missions that were available. The way the story is done, it's bollocks. It's just, I can now review it as a game. I feel that it is finished because I feel like I don't want to go and do the collecting the collectibles. It's in Wildlands, and I don't want to keep going back to Wildlands, I don't want to keep harping on, but it's a direct comparison. You know, it's the next game in the series. In Wildlands, you felt like there was a purpose for collecting stuff. You collected the upgrade points so you could upgrade your character. You collected the weapons to get better weapons. In this, it's like, oh, go and collect this piece of intel that makes no fucking difference to the game. Ah, alright then. Oh, go and collect this attachment for your gun that makes no difference to your gun, because chances are by the time you actually come to use it, you'll have changed your gun and it doesn't fit that gun, and it doesn't matter anyway because you always put a silencer on your gun, so what fucking difference does it make? It's that sort of thing. So as far as doing the collection stuff, I honestly don't care. Doing the faction missions, again, I don't care. These are the ones that continue to be generated. I saw a load of stuff recently where Ubisoft have announced that Breakpoint is a flop. The reason for that is that they feel they've done it wrong and the community agrees. They have pledged to put the AI team back in and make some substantial updates to the game to make it better. Admittedly, the updates that they're making out that they're going to make, to me, don't sound like they're going to make the game better. They're going to make the game worse, but apparently these are the things that people are asking for. Putting the team in is going to make a big difference, but admittedly, I completed the entire game on my own. I said to somebody today that the phrase, the word underwhelming doesn't cover that game enough. It's such a huge disappointment of a game. I eventually had high hopes for it because I'd been led to believe that it was going to be something that it clearly wasn't. The game has no substance. It has no point to anything you do. You can play story missions. You unlock story missions at various points, but then you unlock like 4 or 5, which you can do in any order. They make out that John Bernthal, the character he plays is like this super bad guy, but I managed to go do the mission where you kill him and still have other missions left to do, like other actual story missions left to do. I was like, well, it can't be that much of a bad guy if he's already dead and I haven't finished the game. There was this really cryptic ending where this stuff's happening and nobody knows what's happening or why. It's clearly set up so that there's going to be more content. Obviously, that'll be DLC so they can get the money out of you. But it's just, it misses the mark on nearly every single thing. The weapon upgrade system, I know I was slagging it off 2 minutes ago, but it's actually one of the things I like most about it. The bivouac system's kind of cool. That might actually be it. The vehicles are terrible. They drive awful. The helicopters are almost identical to how they were in Wildlands, so they're fine. But you're so always like 20 kilometres or 10 kilometres away from something, but you can fast travel, so why would you use the vehicle to fly there? Why wouldn't you just fast travel closer and then use a vehicle? Don't use a land vehicle because they're all shit. Just essentially teleport, fast travel, whatever, close to your objective, get in a helicopter and fly like 1 kilometre, land, do what you need to do. It's just, for how much it pains me to say it, it's just a bad game. Ubisoft have admitted it's a flop, and it was, that they really fucked it up, and I fully agree with them. It's terrible. Yeah, they just really missed the mark. Off the back of this, as I've already said previously, they are holding back a load of other games to make massive changes to them, which is a good thing, but I honestly don't know whether they have the capabilities to produce good games. They've set out this model that they're hard line stick to, but the model they've set out is really bad. So I think the greed is getting the better of them. We'll see if they learn from this. They have told the community that they've learned from it. I honestly don't think that's true, because learning, it always involves less money, and these big companies don't want to make less money. So we'll see. Like I say, as far as I'm concerned, I have finished that game now, and I will move on to other stuff. I've got Code Vein to play, which I sort of put on the back burner whilst I played Breakpoint. Now I finished Breakpoint, I'll probably play that. So there you go. That is the podcast for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming along with this roller coaster ride. Let's have a look and see how long that was. Oh yeah, that one's a doozy. Yeah. Thank you. If you're still listening at this point, thank you very much for sticking with me. I did say it would be a long one, and it was. Until next time, I'll say bye. I'll see you then. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done. YouTube watchers, make sure YouTube subscribers, like, share, comment, all of that. Everybody jump over to thecookiecast.com, check us out over there, send us some love. So there we go. Until next time, I'll say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.